Are bronies the same things as furries? Before I answer this question, I want to mention the wise words of Albert Einstein. It is he that said that if you cannot explain it simply, you do not understand it well enough. I have tried answering this question in many simple ways according to the needs of the people who effectively ask me this question. It never seems to be enough for them, and even when I give nearly excessive detail, they are still not satisfied. So to those who don't know and to those who want to know, I will give you a simple explanation and then I will elaborate. To put it simply, a brony is the same thing as a furry because they are both interested in something that is fundamentally the same. They conduct themselves in a similar manner with only a few insignificant changes. But the bronies are ultimately the same thing, and they are ultimately on the same course as the furries. To go any further than that would bring up details, questions that I would have otherwise not taken the time to explain, but for this I will. There are several things to consider when thinking about the similarities between bronies and furries, because they are just so damn many things they have in common. Now, of course, this does not apply to all bronies, but there are only a few to whom this is true. I won't bother with the percentages here, because I know that the polls and surveys regarding the matter are either biased or inaccurate due to their sources. I will explain more on that and the few bronies who shouldn't be considered furries after I discuss my main points. In order to fully understand the differences between the two groups and the similarities, you have to understand the groups themselves. Don't pay attention to stereotypes or matters of opinion. Leave those feelings for after the learning experience. The furries are simple enough to understand based on the stereotypes because a lot of them happen to be true. However, to go on the stereotypes alone is a very superficial perception of the furry fandom, or anything else for that matter. Always make sure you have the facts. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. The furry fandom is a lot more complex than the average description would suggest. The history of the furry fandom also seems to be quite ambiguous to those who typically judge it based on the stereotypes alone. There is no simple way to put this, so bear with me here. The furry's primary interest is in anthropomorphism, which is basically the concept of animals having human traits or vice versa. The level of anthropomorphism actually varies greatly. The most basic level is achieved when the animal speaks and operates on a human or near human level of intelligence, although this is more commonly known as personification, but furries call it feral. Operating on a human level of intelligence includes the ability to build villages or cities, make clothes, and even cook. The next level is having an animal that meets the same standards of the previous level and also has the ability to walk on two legs, although minor alterations to the natural physique of the animal are sometimes made. The level beyond that is where we consider it to be human with animal traits instead of the other way around. This can basically mean that the anthropomorphic character has the physique of a human but with fur or definite differences in the skin pigmentation, thereby giving it different color and pattern. It has the head of an animal and other extremities such as tails or wings. The next level is considered mainly to be Nekos, which is commonly seen in animes. These are mostly human-looking characters that have the ears and sometimes tails of an animal. God, what a mouthful. On to the next items. The furries have their own dark side known as the Yiffers, although now the Yiffers make up the majority of the furry fandom. So the two terms are now synonymous. They also have lots of art, some of it being fan art, to which the many subgroups of the furry fandom are dedicated. Examples of these subgroups are Pokefags, Sonic Fags, Digifags, the Starbucks Fags, the Diaper Furs, and so on. But let's not forget how the Sonic Fags made their original characters, or so they say, by making the existing Sonic characters a different color or give them different hairstyles and markings. The furries are also into roleplay, and also, of course, Yiff, which is sexual roleplay. Many of the relationships, friendly, unfriendly, sexual, and beyond, take place over the internet the majority of the time. They label themselves to be found by other furries by calling themselves furries, of course, and they use some of their own jargon, which is unique to their fandom, but they have adapted to troll memes as well. The furries broadcast their interests by means of art, videos, fan fictions, merchandise, descriptive articles, and other means that I don't feel need to be mentioned. The furries have their own convention, of course, and, well, there they dress up in mascot suits that cost a fortune, and a fandom to call their own as well. Prior to mentioning the yiffers, well, needless to say, the furries have porn. Lots of it. The furries have trouble accepting that they are part of a fandom along with the yiffers, and therefore blame the yiffers for much of the criticism cast upon them. In other words, whenever someone says something against the furry immediately says, "No, I don't do that, the yiffers do." The furries, therefore, are very insecure and easy to anger when compared to their supposed dark side. After the furry pride phase during the Flame War, however, the furries changed tact and stopped regarding the consequential judgment as worth fearing, and instead decided to tag along with the yiffers. They became much more honest about their true interests. They actively and openly started posting their pornography, sexual roleplay, internet relationship status, and so on. Let's not forget about the personas, which is an example of their jargon. It amounts up to nothing but a shitty pun. Anyway, persona is basically a furry persona that is used to represent themselves. While furries deny that there is anything wrong with any of this, I consider it legitimate bestiality and pedophilia in some circumstances. I'm not talking about furry kinks either. I mean that some of the furries would actually have sex with animals, and have admitted to it too. Some of the ones who were honest about their sickness turned out to be otherkin, which are like people who take the whole furry fandom thing another step further. They believe that there are actually some animal species within them, or something like that. Yeah. They use it to justify it all, but you don't have to do any research on that to know that it's crazy. As for the pedophiles, well, I would normally just leave it to explain that diaper furs to serve the point. But there are plenty of furries who are far beyond the age of 18, yiffing with kids as young as 10. If you were a parent, I really don't think you'd want your kids being exposed to that sort of crap. And of course, let's not forget all of the many furry websites, whether they are dedicated to porn or not. Then again, the gay community also used to be met with a stigma, so who knows? Maybe you're just that sick. Or you take tolerance too far. And speaking of love and tolerance, the furries like to boast about loving and tolerating people that were different. But let's face it, no one would have to love or tolerate it if it weren't questionable, wrong, or otherwise deviant. Okay, so now for the definition of Bronies. Well, the primary interest of the Bronies is the show, My Little Pony, which is about anthropomorphic ponies. The ponies in the show may not be what people consider fully anthro, even though there is technically no set standard for such a thing. But they are still anthro. The main argument most ponies use to counter this is that ponies don't walk on two legs. But they seem to be forgetting about the characters in the show that did walk on two legs. There are at least two of those that the Bronies keep talking about. But who they are is technically irrelevant, so I won't mention names. Their attempt to deny that their main interest is the actual ponies because of their appearance is that they are interested in their personalities, as well as music and the plot, pun intended. If that were true, the Bronies would just would be just as interested in the show if you changed the appearance of the ponies. You could either revert to the older art styles of the My Little Pony generations or replace them with something hideous, and their interest in the show would be unperturbed. Be honest with yourselves. If a show catches your interest because of the appearance, you won't care about the other elements of the show as long as you can get that appearance or flashy effects and screenplay. Most people will say that they just heard it was really good and decided to give it a shot. But any grown man with real dignity would find the fact that the show was for little girls something of a deal breaker. Or at least they would find what people would think of them to be a deal breaker anyway. Next is the fact that Bronies have their own jargon and also utilize troll memes. I know for a fact that the Brony fanbase actually started on a trolling haven too, so that might explain their use of memes, and also the fact that the fast-spreading meme-ish nature of 4chan might have given the fanbase a boost, but their love and tolerate meme is nothing more than that, a meme. That was fed to the Bronies so that the Bronies could use it as a troll deterrent, but let's face it, the Bronies don't actually love or tolerate shit. If they did, they wouldn't hate their haters, nor would they claim to hate furries. The Bronies also have their own supposed dark side known as the Cloppers, which the Bronies use as a scapegoat for all of their problems and social ineptitudes. Well, perhaps I'm exaggerating a bit, but you get the idea. The Bronies are part of a generally young fan base, and it has yet to see a single flame war, but that may change soon. Anyway, there is plenty of fan art out there, and that includes videos, fan fictions, music, pictures, and a lot of porn. Brownies claim that there is only a small percentage of porn in the fanbase, but that might only be because most of the supposed fan art actually consists of video stills from the actual show. If you consider fan art to be a picture that was actually drawn by the fan, and I don't mean traced either, then you will find that the ratio of the porn goes up faster than the erection of a clopper confronted with a donkey show.